so scared to leave my house, so I cannot run free from this. Always being watched by you, and that's so inconsiderate. My privacy, does that exist? Probably haven't heard of it. Need to live a different life, cause lights and cameras are in it. Trying to find a silver lining. All I do is avoid the violence. But you're here again, I'm losing it. There's no more screaming and silence. Get out my face, turn off the flash. I hate the fame, no more of that. Leave me alone, or I'll collapse. I need a break, don't feel the crack. You follow me anywhere I try to be alone. I find you there. There's more to me. Everywhere I try to go alone, I find you there. Yeah, yeah. You follow me anywhere I try to be alone, I find you there. Oh, there's more to me. Anywhere I try to be alone, I find you there. I find you there.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Moon with Life. Happy Valentine's Day. Hopefully, you've been able to spend it with a significant other, or if not, maybe you can celebrate with friends and family or family. But we're here for another episode. Some just Monday, check-in Monday stuff. Rams won the Super Bowl. We can start off with that. Make sure right here. And the thing is about the Rams, obviously, I'm not mad that they won. Overall, the Super Bowl was awesome. And I was more disappointed. I was more disappointed than I thought I'd be about the Bengals losing. And I think also because they had such a good first three quarters. And really, in my opinion, they lost in the last maybe in the last 2 minutes. They had a few big penalties, and then as the Rams got to the red zone, then they had I think they had like a pass interference or a personal foul, something like that. Got them half distance to the goal, and they got a holding penalty, and that got the Rams to the 1 yard line. Then they scored, and then that was all within the last 2 minutes. And the thing is, like, it's funny because there wasn't even much build-up. It was like the Rams were on a run. They were doing good. They were obviously making their yards. And then those, for me, it was maybe three penalties total, but those two big ones were the ones that they got the Rams to the 1 yard line, and they scored, and rightfully so, and they won. Like I said, overall, I'm glad it was two new teams, technically two new teams, but two quarterbacks that both did well. Man, the Bengals defense, they were doing so good. That's what I'm saying. I'm more upset than I wish I would be, but the Bengals defense did such a good job overall. And so that was that. And I was like, okay. And I don't watch. I used to watch like the whole ceremony and everything before, but now it's just like, now they won. Cool. And then, get back to what I was doing, what I needed to be doing. But that was that. Trying to just touch up on some things as far as Super Bowl. Black Rifle Coffee Company is now public, which is pretty dope. They have their own stock ticker. I think it's BRCC, which if you look it up, it's BRCC. It's pretty cool because it's a very organic company that it's relatively still new. Evan Hafer, Matt Best, they're all retired military, special operations, and now they have a coffee company. I don't know where they started it out, but I know they're based in Texas now. I'm trying to see if it says here. It's fine. Either way, it kicked off last week, and obviously everybody's in support. I'm saying everybody is in support of the whole Joe Rogan thing. So obviously everybody's asking, what's your opinion? Everybody's giving positive. Even Adesanya, like Izzy, UFC fight. I think he kept his belt. He also fought on Saturday night, kept his belt. He ended up winning. I think he went to decision against Whitaker. I'm not sure. I didn't get to watch. I didn't watch the fights. I didn't get to watch the fights. But I know he won, and I think that, and I only bring it up because at a press conference, I guess probably like Thursday or Friday, whenever they do press leading up to the fight, they're like, "Oh, what's your opinion on Joe Rogan?" And he's like, "Hey, Joe Rogan's good to go. I don't have a problem. He's not racist." I think he literally drops the mic, and that's the end of that conversation. I mean, the media is really trying hard right now or I guess mainstream media, the media that we knew to really keep our attention because we would use the TV, and now we have YouTube and we have all these streaming services, and you can just go right straight to the source of whatever movie you want to see or anything like that. And anyways, Spotify picked up Joe Rogan, and I thought it had really. I think all the turmoil has blown over, because I think also like the media. I say the media, but it's such a very broad term now, because it's like these woke people that are just trying to disrupt others' lives and whatnot. I talked about this already. I don't want to take too long. Stay too long on this topic, because it's like I've talked about this. I don't like staying on topic for too long. Move on. Again, we're already halfway now. We're halfway through February now, and he's moved on. He's had several. He's been releasing his podcast regularly, like normal, and I've been listening to him. Like millions of others have been listening to him, versus the maybe thousands, if that, watching mainstream media in depth as much as I watch Joe Rogan on Spotify and other podcasts that I follow. That I really don't watch mainstream media. I don't encourage it. I encourage people to watch other things, podcasts, because you can find any topics that you like. You can find them. So that's that. Back Rifle Company. Rams won Super Bowl. Today's Valentine's Day. Cool. A few things that have led up to today, and one of the I'm not gonna say the big one. I guess one of the standouts for me, because I was making my notes, and I was like, okay, like how am I gonna go about this? Because I feel like I have some things that I'm like, okay, I want to talk about them, but then when I wrote down, lately I've been being and feeling like I feel like I've been internalizing. Feeling existential lately, like what does this all mean? What does the future bring? In 5 years, what are these things actually going to look like? In 10 years, what are things actually going to look like? Just these big macro thoughts. I think some of it has to do with Tim Ferriss. He had an episode a little while, but not like maybe within the last month or two. He had Dr. M. Kaiku. And I just re-listened to the episode before jumping on here, because there was a couple of notes that I wanted to make. Dr. Michio Kaku. He's Japanese American. His parents Japanese American too. They were even born here. They endured the rough time of being alive and old enough to be arrested during World War II, because of Pearl Harbor just happened. So there's all these like internment camps that we had here in the United States, which I learned about actually pretty young, because there was a fiction story, but based on true events that I read, and it had to do with that. And I didn't know that, and I at that time, this was probably 10 years ago when I read this book. I was already fascinated and infatuated with like World War II and the Pacific, and then you have European theater. But anyways, so Dr. Kaku, he's a string theory physicist. He says that's what his life's work is. He's very inspired by Albert Einstein and the theory of everything, which then Dr. Stephen Hawking jumped into as well, right? So Albert Einstein, Stephen Hawking, he's basically made his life work about string theory and atomic what's the word I'm looking for? Atomic. I'm not even gonna worry about it. Making machines for atomic particles, subatomic particles, black matter, all that. I think listen to his podcast literally like 3-4 times. No, probably like 3 full times now. It was because it's like an hour and a half podcast, hour and a half episode. I actually wish it was longer, but it's so dense with information. Like a mind blowing thing that he's talking about was like according to string theory, us humans live in a 3-dimensional bubble, within an 11-dimensional space, according to string theory and what's been found so far. Like, and when I heard that was like last week, and I remember telling a lot of people. Now I was like, oh, I remember telling everybody, not everybody, but just people that I had conversation with throughout like the next 4 days, leading into the weekend. I was like, did you know that this guy's saying that we're in a 3-dimensional bubble? And it's funny to me because it actually makes a little bit sense to me, because I've seen Interstellar, the movie with Matthew McConaughey, has been one of my favorites. And after watching that, and regardless if it's science fiction, I don't care. But like the science exists, the theory of everything, all these kind of things that lead up to me listening to this podcast episode, it always made more sense to me than actual aliens. The old school definition of what aliens were, interstellar travel, black matter, or dark matter. Sorry, dark matter. The fact that there's multiple dimensions beyond the third dimension, so 3D, 4D, where we already kind of experienced that. But then the fifth dimension and beyond, it's like beyond our capability as human beings right now. And because that's kind of like what they lead into Interstellar. If you haven't seen it, sorry, kind of a spoiler alert. Not really. You can still watch the show. It's a very good story. But that's one of the things that has been then pulling me out of like, not the wanting to. That's why I'm here. We're talking, but mentally, whenever I'm at work or if I'm here sitting, listening, or driving to wherever I'm going, I've been feeling very existential, because it's like, what does this mean? Like literally, what does this mean? What's it gonna lead to? And there's so many like rhetorical questions that I don't care to answer. But that's how I've been feeling, because I think I've been influenced by this episode, and it's like, okay, I need to stop, and and me coming to this, doing these recordings, helps me pull myself back. Like, hey, maybe we'll understand it later, but for now, let's draw back to the now, the here, moving with life, the podcasts, because I feel this is important to do. I like doing it. I feel like my arrangement, my ability to arrange thoughts and stories is helping by me actually doing this live. So that's how I've been. That's being feeling existential lately. A cool thing I heard on TikTok. I found it on TikTok, and I made sure to write at least that, because it was a short video. I don't even know if I follow the person that came up on my For You page, but this person said, look at life as what's the best that could happen versus what, like, I'm not gonna say I was raised in this environment necessarily, but I always remember hearing, and I don't know if you feel the same or you experience the same, but it's always like, oh, what's the worst that could happen? Even if you're joking, because like, oh, it's not even a big deal. What's the worst that could happen? But the psychology behind what's the worst that could happen versus what's the best that could happen. For whatever reason, this is my point. This is, I guess, one of the sub points I wanted to make about this short video. Excuse me. Is that because psychology and using your words a certain way does affect your mindset and kind of like the way you approach your life and approach the things that you want to do, approach the things that you're doing currently. And just by changing that, I'm like, man. And it made me think. It actually made me think of another little Tim Ferriss like theory. Is like, well, what would happen if I did the opposite for 48 hours? That's one of those like top 17 questions of like life. And I'll go, because I've done it before. I think I've done it before, and I feel like it was with Brian like 2017 when I first started this podcast. And I actually resaved the questions because I want to go over them again now, 5 years later. But and again, just hearing that short video, and I'm like, man, it's so right, and it can really change. For me, it changed my perspective on just that day, because I was driving. Was I driving? No, I wasn't driving because I was on TikTok. Was I at work? Maybe. I can't remember where I saw it, because I feel like there was sunlight. Maybe I was walking. I might have been walking or going for a jog or something. I might have been walking, because I know I went for a little walk the other day. It might have been that day. I'm either way, but because I remember it being sunny and me scrolling, so I might have been for a walk, and I see this thing, and it's like, look at life as what's the best that could happen, and then I wrote so I can remember my points, like versus what's the worst that could happen, because that at least that's usually my go-to. Even when I was training at 9 round back home, I'd always look for the best worst case scenarios, like the optimistic worst case. Like the worst case scenario is that I'm gonna barbecue today and I'm gonna be with my family. Like that's the worst case, and I try to at least frame the outcome, even though I'm using negative terminology, like the best worst case scenario, but the outcome was always like a positive thing. Like it was always like, okay, you know what? I'm actually not gonna worry about X, Y, or Z. I am gonna do something that's just fulfilling, even if it's just fulfilling to me. Which, you know, I love barbecuing, I love being with my family, so it made sense. Cause I remember that conversation. I actually remember who that was with. One of the people I was training, and we were talking, and I was like, well, the best worst case scenario is that I want to be barbecuing this week with my family, and that's it. End of story. Easy day. No more, no less than barbecuing and being with my family. So that's just something that kind of has helped turn my we'll say my week around, which is these past 7 days since, or 6 days since the last time I was here on recording, which was last Wednesday. So yeah, maybe it's something that if you're feeling like you're just in the worst case scenarios, times like, okay, what's the best thing that can happen out of this? What is a good thing that can come out of this, and then build from there. I don't have much more to say about it because I feel like it's that simple. And simplicity, going back with the existential feeling, is because that's what I've been going back to. And again, so this is another Tim Ferriss thing where it's like, what would this look like if it were easy? Jocko talks about it. Tim Ferriss. I first got it from Tim Ferriss, but Jocko talks about it too in his own way, where you have to simplify things. Simple but not easy sometimes. And so I've been all these thoughts and theories that I already know, plus like people bringing some of these thoughts to life in their own way. It's been very beneficial to me, and I want to say I appreciate it, but I guess I appreciate that it exists, and being able to frame things to where there's a positive outcome, and it's not, but it's also realistic. It's a positive outcome, but it's not like overly optimistic, like sub-reality thing. Like, just and I'm not saying like I'm trying to push away like any problems I have or think I have, but it's just, if I can frame for me, framing does help me just continue trying to progress in my life. And then me bringing these ideas and thoughts to here is like, I hope if you can take some bit of value for you, it'll do the same thing. So there's that. Man, that's about it. I got one more thing which I'm leaving towards the end, but as far as my points, I think I got them all knocked out. One thing that I've been appreciative of lately, especially since I started live streaming. So I've been trying to do like Monday and Friday of 1 week, and then Wednesday of the following week, because of my work schedule. Those are the like 3 days that I can be kind of like bi-weekly consistent on. And it's like, and it wasn't, maybe it was last week, but it was last week where I had to actually take a break and then come in. And I felt more ready to podcast like last Wednesday, because mentally I was just feeling kind of foggy and whatever. And it wasn't, I think I was just tired, which is normal. I had worked the previous couple of days. So that Wednesday, it's like, okay, I'm kind of recovering. My brain's still kind of foggy because I'm going from healthcare, emergency medicine mindset to then podcasts and life, and sometimes they clash, sometimes and in a good way. Sometimes they correlate a lot, especially being in emergency medicine, the things I've gone to see, the things I've gone to do. But anyway, so with all that and recording and trying to be consistent, I have a buddy he's initiated this with me, and I let him know that I'm very appreciative of it, because it's nice to just have an actual check-in. So I try to do a check-in here. I'm bringing my thoughts. I'm bringing any stories any stories I might have, any new information that I might have discovered or learned myself, and I talk about it here. But he's been doing a literal check-in Monday. Like, hey bro, check-in Monday. How are you doing? and we'll talk and it's usually, it's super quick conversation, relatively speaking. And then we go about our days, right? And when it happened today, again, because this has been maybe for the past, like, again, since I started streaming live, when it happened today, I was like, man, I want to brief about it here on the podcast, because like, oh, like, if you're feeling down, or if you know somebody's feeling down or having a rough week, or maybe they're not, there's just someone that 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 you're willing and wanting to check in on them genuinely, not without looking for any self benefit or self gain from it. So it's just an idea that I wanted to throw out, because like, I know it's been happening with me and my buddy. I've known this person for a good little while now. We've experienced a lot, and so in doing that, it's like, oh yeah, like I just wanted to touch base real quick on that here, because like, maybe you can do that for someone, or maybe you're the one who actually needs it, and hopefully someone out there that is that close to you is willing to check in. And maybe you can do it mutually, like, hey, can we do this check-in? Kind of like an accountability type situation, where it's like, hey, let's text each other every Monday, or have an agreement on whatever type of communication. It doesn't have to be. I mean, again, these are, for me, in my case, it's just text, like, hey, check in Monday, what's up? Like, are you good? How are you doing? And genuinely interested. Check in, check out, and then you go about your day, and it's just a super simple thing, that I think would be. I think it would be beneficial to you, because it's beneficial to me. I know how much I appreciate it, and it's like, okay, cool, we did our check in Monday real quick, and now I can kind of start my day. That's how it kind of feels, which is pretty neat. Again, it's something that it's very new for me, but it's pretty dope. It's pretty cool. So there's that. Last thing I want to talk about. I got a few more minutes than I kind of want, so I don't want to sell this episode short. Let me jump into this real quick, just because it has to do with time, and again, the whole existential thing. So this is from chapter 4 of this book, Life After Google, End of the Free World. And I literally only made one little, because the chapter was pretty short, so I only made one little tab here. I'm just going to read it real quick, and then I'm going to read this. I'm going to read one more thing, and then we'll get out of here for today. But not only is free a lie, as we've seen, but a price of 0 signifies a return to the barter system. A morass of incommensurable exchanges that the human race left behind in the Stone Age. You pay not with money, but with your attention. Above all, you pay in time. Time is what money measures and represents. What remains scarce when all else becomes abundant in the zero marginal cost economy. Money signals the real scarcities of the world concealed in the false infinities of free. And then it goes on to, it keeps talking about, like, how free isn't free. And I actually made a note from a few days ago when I read that chapter, and I had put a green tab, and then I read, and the entire word, it's like, oh, Google's giving you everything for free. However, comma, you have ads, you have all these things that are usually kind of getting bombarded subconsciously, subcomputingly. That's not a word, but via the internet, via algorithms, you get fed ads and things that the computers think that you want to see, and the algorithms think that or know that you want to see. Because I'm not gonna lie, my algorithm on whether it's on Yahoo, whether it's on like Yahoo, I'll say Yahoo Finance, or on TikTok, or on Instagram, whatever, like they're good, right? They're pretty spot on. But one thing I wrote as a question to think about is, like, what is worth my money? What is worth my time? If time is because I even talked about it last week where knowledge is power, and I can involve time, because then you're talking about expending, not exp yeah, expending you're expending energy, you're using energy to do X, Y, and Z, and buying extra stuff and whatnot. And that all led me to, what is worth my time, what is worth my money, because money is like your physical things, like what is worth my money in my eyes. Like it's like, okay, what's worth my money is supporting small businesses, doing the podcast, me basically supplementing my own podcast for now. I love food, so good quality food, or even food I just like to. Why am I lying? Why am I going to attempt to just mask and fog up the fact that I like food and I like to eat good, good quality for the podcast. But then getting into like what's worth my time, it's like, some days I feel like I need to sleep more. Some days I feel like I need to sleep less. But what am I using with my time? So in that, I have been trying to do like a little. I'm still on social media a lot, but trying to do it just a little bit less. Or at the very least, I'm trying to be more useful with what I'm watching and researching and listening to. I.e., listening to an hour and a half podcast 3 times or 4 times. That has to do with string theory and physics. So yeah, I can leave you with that as far as like what is worth your time, what is worth your money. The last quote that I want to leave you with comes from Seneca. Stoicism. I've talked about it. I've read Marcus Aurelius on here. I haven't talked about much of Seneca, but that's what I want to end today's episode with. And it's from a tweet that Tim Ferriss put out. I've been obviously I've been listening to a lot of Tim Ferriss and a lot of Joe Rogan lately, but this comes from when he tweeted about it, and it's from his blog on his website, tim.blog.com, which you can look that up. He literally posts all his information, everything that he's done so far in his career as a podcaster and human guinea pig. It's all on there. But he has on the shortness of life, which is an essay that Seneca wrote. I don't remember all the details because I just want to get into like the quote and then we'll be done for today. But I read through the essay and I'm like, okay, let me just take one because it's like a 20-30 minute read if you read the whole thing. Then then Tim Ferriss bolded certain sections like a 4-minute read. I thought about doing that, and then as I started, I'm like, well, I don't read that fast, so I'm like, let me just take the biggest quote out of here. That also makes sense with what I've talked about today: time, money, existential, string theory, multiple dimensions. What can kind of tie all that in? And really, there is nothing the busy man is less busied with than living. There's nothing that is harder to learn. And that's the one I feel like best encompasses today's episode, these past 30 minutes that we've been talking. My thoughts, everything that's been going on today is like, trying to use my time wisely. And sometimes using the time wisely means actually sleeping more. Again, and I say that because there are times where I can't sleep, or I don't sleep, I haven't slept, or whatever the situation may be. But when I allow myself to kind of just sleep and recover correctly, it allows me to use my time awake to at least be just a tiny bit more productive, just a tiny bit. So I appreciate you. I thank you for tuning in, whether you're listening to this now or in the future, whatever that time frame may be. Again, happy Valentine's Day. Hopefully you've been able to spend it well, whatever that means for you. Good job, Rams. You earned it. Either way, you earned it. I guess I'm a little more salty. I'm not mad that you guys won. But it wasn't your fault. There's so many just error again. Anyways, let's get out of here. Take care of yourself mentally and physically. Lead from the front if you have a team, if you have a household. lead by example. Sometimes leading by, I have to write this down for next time, but leading by example, I think we're phasing out of that. I have some personal stories now where I'm seeing a change, and so sometimes leading by example isn't the route, but try your best to lead by example, and then bring others along with you to do whatever you need to do and do it successfully, do it correctly, with the highest quality, the highest efficiency. Take care of yourself mentally, physically. They're both important. Enjoy your week. I have to figure out, because I'm gonna go see Chris D'Elia on Friday. So I'm trying to figure out the podcast situation for Friday's episode and content and making sure it's still a hopefully fulfilling and a fulfilling episode, and something that you can take something away from that episode. Yeah. Thanks for joining. We'll see you next time.